Are you going to mention that in your right away thing, Brad, or do you want me to mention in the welcome?
You can, your choice, sir. It's up to you. You can mention it.
Okay, I'll mention it then.
Okay. So we are recording now, so we're good.
We got to watch our language.
Yes,
Good evening, President Rosenblum, or Mark, as it were.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Oh, good, Jared's. I'm glad Jared made it. You're the star of the show tonight.
Oh, no pressure.
You're
No
the high
pressure.
point. You are the high point.
I'm gonna count how many ums you say, Jared.
No.
Jared, we do have a time.
Oh, really?
Wrap it up in 3. That'd be appreciated. Let's see. Hey Jim, have you talked to Mr. West?
Yes, he'll be on.
Okay, perfect. Great. Fire marshal's got COVID.
I muted.
I could see and hear it.
I can't have COVID. Angela took my temperature this morning.
Yeah, that doesn't mean nothing.
Is that Casey Stotts online, or is that just another Casey?
I don't know, actually. We got Ron Lawrence from Princeton just checking in.
Wonderful. Good evening, Ron.
You want to do the week after then? So you can do that?
Yeah.
Do that ceremony.
Yeah, it was awesome.
What was that the thing you're doing? I thought you were doing it at City Hall.
Well,
All right, I think we'll get started. Looks like it's 6 o'clock. Welcome to the State of Minnesota Fire Service COVID WebEx. I appreciate your attendance tonight. Notice the time change. It used to be 6 o'clock just to facilitate an easier getting out of here and then so you guys can enjoy your evening. So our first speaker tonight is Mr. Fire Marshal Jim Smith. Go ahead, Jim.
All right. Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our first monthly fire service update. This is an exciting time in my life. I got to tell you, this is just truly exciting to be able to do this. Now, I was also excited last night when I won 2 gift certificates to Osseo Meats at the meat raffle. So my level of excitement can peak out real quick. But in any event, we sent out a questionnaire about 2 months ago, and the vast majority of people really enjoyed the concept of doing a monthly update meeting. And through discussions with MSFDA, MSFCA, FMAM, DNR, whatever like that, we've come up with a format where we'll have these short updates from people who have updates. And then what we're going to do is at the end of each program, we're going to have a very timely and important, if you want to call it training or informational session. Tonight, as you see, we've got Jared Roseboom talking about the CARES funding, which is very important for statewide fire departments. So to keep it short, just a couple things here. As we go along, you can either ask a question in the chat room, which Brad Winger will be monitoring all night. If you call up your participants page over on the right-hand side of your screen by your name, like here in my name here, it says raise hand. You can also raise your hand and Brad Winger will see that you have a question or something. That way you could ask it online through the video conference. So it is acceptable. This message or this session is being recorded and will be put out to the fire service across the state so they can view it at a later date. And with that, I think without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to my boss, my mentor, my boss. Did I say that twice? Is he online? Is Commissioner West online?
I do not see him online.
Dang, I wasted all of that and he's not even online?
No, I
Jeez.
think
Okay, well, what we will do is I'll turn it back to Brad, and if Assistant Commissioner West bops on, we can always circle back and pick him up. So that's all I have, Brad. Thank you.
no problem. Okay, cool. We'll go down the agenda until Commissioner West pops up. But at this time, looks like our first one is MSFDA Ed Hoffman. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Sort of hard. It's Ed Hoffman from the Minnesota State Association. I'm the Secretary Treasurer. A couple of brief things I want to announce out or go over with folks tonight. First, I'm sure everybody's seen we made the difficult decision to cancel our annual conference. That had originally planned for April, and we're hoping that we could move it to this fall and do it here in August. But just with everything going on, working with our instructors and with the state of everything here, like I said, the board made the difficult decision to cancel it this year. So unfortunately, no annual conference for the MSFDA this year, but we are looking forward to seeing everybody the end of next April in Bemidji. We've already started planning on that, so get that on your calendars, watch for information on the website, and we're looking forward to hopefully getting back together in April then for the MSFDA. The other thing I just want to touch on real briefly, we haven't talked a lot about through all this COVID stuff, is around the Relief Association. Got a couple questions recently. I know we just had our board meeting last night for the department I'm on, but I'm sure everybody's seen what a roller coaster investments have been here recently. Excuse me. And one of the things, They've been up and down. Luckily, I know ours isn't doing too bad. We're down good part for this year already, but not doing too bad. But looking, the way the rest of the year's going as people get back to school, who knows where the COVID's going. We got some election or something coming up too. So markets are pretty much all over the place these days. And the specific questions I got were around investment policies. Had some departments that had contacted me, the state auditor. Most of you probably know investment policies are a requirement for our relief association from the state. And I know the state auditor's office does review them. They look at them. I've had a couple departments that didn't have them that were asking me what these things are. So I just wanted to talk briefly about those and the importance of them, especially in times like this. One of the key things with investment policy is it lays out what your objectives are for investments and also how you're invested, how much money or what percentage of your portfolio is in what type of investment, and it helps keep you diversified. It keeps you on track. And where they really can help out is when markets are real volatile like this, when you have big ups or downs. By going back to that investment policy and just looking at it, you can do what's called rebalancing. Again, the markets are down quite a bit. You may have some of your investments that are doing real well. And if it's like ours, quite a few of them that aren't doing real well. Well, as that happens, they get out of alignment from what that investment policy is, where maybe I had 60% in stocks. Well, now because they've done so well or so poorly, that percentage is off. So basically, I just wanted to remind people, if you're on the Relief Association or have your board looking at that, this time of year is a good time to look at rebalancing. One, because we've been through a lot this year, but also as we're getting ready for the state aid coming out here in September, using that money to rebalance it. It's counterintuitive. You have some investments that are doing real well, and you look at your investment policy, and it's sort of directing you, I should be selling these and buying these other ones that haven't been doing well. Well, that's the key with it. Everybody knows the saying, buy low, sell high. That's what the investment policy helps us do. So just wanted to throw that out there. We haven't talked much about relief, and make sure people are looking at that. And like I said, it is a good time of year to be looking at how that is, especially with all the volatility and what we're doing. It just helps you keep you diversified. So again, you don't have the big swings in your portfolio and get it in the long term. So we have a nice retirement when we hit our 20 years. So that's about all I wanted to chat about. I'll be hanging out through the end if there's any questions, or I don't think I see any chats or anything now. So thank you.
Does anybody have any comments for Mr. Hoffman? No comments or questions of Mr. Ed Hoffman. We'll be going to our next speaker. That'll be Bill Glesner from the DNR. Go ahead, Bill.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice up here in Grand Rapids. Well, we've been working on Western mobilizations, trying to assist our partners out west, both federal and state. Currently, we have 22 folks on off-unit assignments, and that does include 2 suppression modules that have been mobilized to Wyoming. COVID-19 evaluations prior to these assignments do take some time to approve, so it's not as rapid this year. The last week, we've been under 10 fires for minimal acres statewide amongst all the Minix agencies. Activity is very low, even with the D1 drought in place in some locations. Burning permits are managed locally using the online system, so contact your local forestry office if you have questions or concerns. And then most staff continue to telework unless field operations are necessary, and then they're going out individually in the field. So. And a report.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Glesner? Okay, not hearing any. Our next speaker is Angie Wise. I'm trying to look for her in the list. I don't see her unless she's a call-in user. Angie, if you're a call-in user, just hit that red button on the bottom and they'll unmute your telephone.
Yeah, this is Kathy Osmondson, Vice President of FMAM. I'm covering for Angie tonight.
Perfect. Go ahead, Kathy.
So we just have a couple of things. Everybody probably knows our April conference in conjunction with the State Fire Marshal Division was canceled. And we are planning to move ahead for 2021 to have a face-to-face conference. No dates have been set at this time. Our September training meeting will be a virtual meeting, and you can find information about that on the FMAM website. Again, just a reminder for people, it is that time of year when your memberships are becoming due for FMAM, and as a part of our conference for 2020 that was canceled, we bought gifts for the attendees, which are turbo tabs for your code books. They are available for free for members. They're available for $15 for non-members, and Kip Lamott in New Brighton and Tom Pitch Snyder, excuse me, in Shakopee has the turbo tabs if you want to call them or go pick them up. That's where they're located. And that's all we've got for tonight.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Does anybody have any questions for Kathy? All right, not hearing any questions for Kathy. Our next speaker is going to be Mr. Steve Flaherty. Go ahead, Steve.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to second what Bill Glesner said. If it is a beautiful night up here in Grand Rapids, if you're looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, it's right here. And that's in part due to the FSAC meeting today in the distribution of sort of the appropriation of one-time funding. The MBFTE, they recommended to Commissioner Harrington nearly $1.8 million in one-time money today to come to the MBFTE for FY21. So what that means at our board meeting next week, if Commissioner Harrington signs this off, our board will be meeting to determine what they're going to do with nearly $8 million between our base budget funding, what has rolled over from FY20 into 21, and then this one-time funding. I fully expect to see the fire departments being able to have 200 per firefighter. Again, none of this is etched in stone. Our board needs to meet on it and approve it, but we should be nearly fully funded for a lot of programs for fiscal 21. The challenge is going to be for the fire service to spend this down, much like fiscal 17, fiscal 19, and you can see a trend here with these odd number fiscal years when we have big spikes in our funding versus the even number years. And that has to do with this rollover money of what we can carry from one fiscal half into a next, and so on, and the one-time money from the FSAC. So start your training plans accordingly. I know COVID really took a bite out of everybody's training in FY20. It looks like it's going to be here for a while in FY21, but there are ways to get around that and continue to get your training in, that kind of stuff. Our office is and as well with the fire service specialists are working on some documentation that we can hand off to the fire service to help you in your training planning with private and public providers into how to get that training done during COVID. A lot of departments, I think, just kind of threw their hands up in the air this spring when it came to training and just said, you know, we're not doing anything due to COVID. Some people couldn't. But if this is going to last for a while, training needs to continue. And there are ways the providers are working around that, getting it done and doing it safely. So we're working on trying to get that information out to the fire service. You'll see something about that probably after Labor Day. Going back to FY20, the reimbursements, we're just kind of closing the books right now on FY20, but there was about 225, 230 departments who never submitted anything to the MBFTE in FY20. And that's remarkable, and that's way up from what we have been in the past. And that's too bad. I will continue to say that thankfully the silver lining around COVID was this happened in the first half of the fiscal biennium, and we can roll it into the second half. So I guess the message going forward from today out is going to be we want to spend this money down. We can't roll it into fiscal 22. So plan accordingly, and just try to do your best to get this your training needs met. And I guarantee you there's a redistribution. There always is at the end of a fiscal, an odd number fiscal year, because the last thing we want to do is give anything back to the fire safety account. So that's our goal. Again, our board will be meeting a week from today, and they'll be determining what they're going to do with the budget. We'll be sending out communications to the fire service shortly thereafter. Please, and always, give me a call, shoot me an email, whatever, if you got questions regarding that. But look for some more communication coming out. We're really happy. We're extremely excited about what the FSAC recommended to us today, and that's a good thing for the fire service, because that's what it takes to meet our needs. I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Steve. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Flaherty? Anyone? All right, I have no questions for you. Nobody has any questions. We're going to go to a question that was Mr. Jim Smith has to ask of DNR. Jim Smith, go ahead.
No, thank you. Yeah, I raised my hand, but was not seen. So whatever. Question for Bill with the DNR, for my benefit and maybe others. If the Western area starts to ramp up like it did back with the Carr fire and all of that stuff, how does that impact in-state resources and personnel and assets?
Currently, right now, we're evaluating that basically on every mobilization. So anytime we send anybody out, we're having our folks take a good hard look to in-state needs. And if we have in-state needs, we won't continue to mobilize. We'll make sure that we have enough reserves so that we can facilitate any activity that appears this fall. So, yeah, right now national planning level is at planning level 4, and it's primarily because they cannot get enough crews and ground resources due to COVID and the mobilization process and the concerns that lie with COVID out west. So it's not because I would say the Western states aren't any worse off than the rest of the country. Some are, some aren't, but it's more of just the pandemic effects on how people are willing to evaluate risk is limiting some of the availability for some crews. So.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Appreciate that. Our next speaker is Jared Roseboom from Safe Fire Marshal. Go ahead, Jared.
Thank you, Brad. Good evening, everybody. Just want to share some information that we have on the CARES Act funding in regards to fire departments. Over the last couple of 3 weeks, we have received a plethora of communications, phone calls, emails from departments all across the state in regards to the CARES Act funding. And specifically, what would be some eligible expenses that funding can be used for? We've gotten questions about, can we use it to buy radios, turnout gear, SCBAs, gear washer extractors, you name it. We've gotten those questions. And so we've been at work trying to get some answers to those questions and some clarity on eligible expenses for the CARES Act funding. We reached out to the League of Minnesota Cities, and they gave us a little bit of guidance that they had, and we pushed that out through our email listserv. We've also reached out to the COVID-19 Response and Accountability Office, which is through Minnesota Management and Budget, or MMB. And we've also reached out to the U.S. Department of Treasury to see some more guidance and some clarity on some of these questions here. And while we haven't received anything back from the U.S. Department of Treasury, we did get a response back from the COVID-19 Response and Accountability Office. And I think everybody knows, those 3 general principles that kind of guide determining what an eligible expense is. The first one is that it has to be a necessary expense that was incurred due to the public health emergency and directly related to the COVID-19 pandemic. Number two was that it can't be accounted for or can't be appropriated in your current budget already. It has to be something that's not currently in your budget. And the third one is that it has to be an incurred expense between March 1 and December 20th of this year. And so that does leave it kind of clear enough to not be very clear. And so that's when we start reaching out to get some more clarity on that and some better answers, hopefully. The response we got back from the COVID-19 Response and Accountability Office didn't necessarily give us a yes or no answer to any of those specific questions. But their response did provide some pretty good clarity, I think, in helping make that decision-making process to determine what would be an eligible expense and what would not be. What the response was, is that making sure that the local fire department and the local elected officials work together to make that determination. And so looking at those three guiding principles together with the fire department and the local government officials, they need to weigh those factors and make that determination if the expense is necessary and due to COVID-19, or if that need is something broader than COVID-19, which I think is the real telling sign there, is that if that expense is specifically for COVID-19, or if the expense has a broader scope of work than just specifically COVID-19. But the key point here is that the decision-making process should be documented and very well documented for use in case of an audit. If somebody comes back to ask questions on why you spent the money on this piece of equipment, but to have that documentation that shows that we sat down and we had a discussion and we weighed all the options and here's our justification for it. That's going to help you out tremendously. And in those three guiding principles, it talks about necessary expenditures. The COVID Response and Accountability Office also made the statement in their response, that the Department of Treasury looks at that term necessary expenditure, and they look at that to be very broad, and to mean that the expenditure is reasonably necessary for its intended use, and that it's in the reasonable judgment of the local government officials who have the responsibility of spending the CARES Act funding payments that were made to them. So hopefully that kind of helps guide some of that decision-making process, with the departments and your local governments. We're going to continue to seek out more clarity and more answers to some of those questions. And as we get them, we are definitely going to be pushing them out through our email listserv. So if anybody on here is not signed up for that email listserv, make sure you go to the State Fire Marshal Division website. And over on the right-hand side of the page, you're going to see a picture of a really good-looking guy over there. And a couple of boxes underneath that picture is going to be the Stay Connected box. Click on that, put your email address in, and you're set. So with that, just thank you for your time here this evening, and I hope everybody enjoys the beautiful weather outside. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. I just sent you a private message concerning a question somebody had. They had to leave, but they wanted you to write this email address down so you can contact him later. I think he got a call, so he had to go. Does anybody else have any questions for Jared Rusbom? All right, not hearing any. Does anybody have any questions for any of our speakers tonight? All right, not hearing any. We're going to go to closing remarks by Fire Marshal Smith. Go ahead, Jim.
All right, thank you, Brad. As you can see that, 6:25, our goal is to get you in these meetings, to get you the information that you need, answer any questions, and not drag it on to fill the full hour. We all have lives. We already know that the fire service is already taxing on our private lives, and the last thing we will do is take more time necessary. Please remember that our fire service specialists are always available for questions, whether it be on COVID, whether it be on CARES, whatever. That's what they were hired for. Jared is up for his annual review, so thank you for those wonderful comments, Jared. I'll pass them on to Amanda since she's doing it. You sucked up to the wrong person. I got nothing to say about that. So, but with that being said, yeah, we are excited for this type of program, and I want to also reach out to everybody here on a couple things. One is be assured that this is not a fire chiefs only forum. This is for the fire service. And so any one of your officers or firefighters or chiefs definitely can log in to this meeting, because we want to capture what is important for everybody and pass that information out. So please spread the word that this is fire service. We've got, you may not have seen it, but we have Tim Butler on in our program tonight of National Fire Sprinkler Association, and we were just texting back and forth that I think in the near future, I think it would be a wonderful idea for the National Fire Sprinkler Association to do a little informational dog and pony show to emphasize the importance. Well, we all know the importance of sprinklers, but how are we going to get legislation through? What's it going to take for the state fire service to push stronger regulations on fire sprinklers? So Tim and I will be doing that, at least talk about that in the near future. So again, this forum is open to pretty much anybody. So pass along that information. I had one more arrow that I was going to write behind that something was important, but I can't remember what it was. So with that being said, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy schedule to attend tonight. Thank you to all the presenters who gave information. That agenda will change on a monthly basis, just depending upon who is needing information or who has information and who doesn't. And with that, again, thank you one and all. Brad, back to you.
All right, thanks again. Request to the meeting to adjourn in a record 27 minutes. Woo! Yay, that's an all-time record. Very proud of everybody. All right, have a good night.
We'll Brad.
Yeah.
Yep. Check your emails. We'll be sending out, I believe it's September 2nd will be our next, I believe that's the first Wednesday of the month. So mark your calendars, September 2nd.
September 2nd. All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.